Good morning and welcome to all. This is Bailey and Dijnakas. I am the principal of Evergreen School. It is my great honor today to welcome you all, honored guests, families, staff, and most importantly, students, to our Keewatin-Patricia District School Board Treaty Recognition Week closing assembly. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge our elders and the drum and invite student Reese Wetzel, student from Beaver Brae Secondary School, up to acknowledge the land that we gather on today. Reese?
Bonjour. Reese Dijnakas, Makodutam, Notum Duji. I'm here today to talk about land acknowledgement. The phrase we are all treaty people means that everyone in Canada, settlers and Indigenous people alike, are in some way affected by the treaties. Treaty 3 was signed on October 3rd, 1873 by the Siouxsie Band of Ojibwe Peoples and Government of Canada. The treaty addition was later signed by the Métis Nation in 1875. We recognize that we are all treaty people, and we give thanks for the relationships developed and developing because of the treaty and in light of reconciliation. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, and we give thanks and recognize that we come together today and every day to go to school on traditional lands of Anishinaabe people on the Wajash, Onigam Nation, as well as the people of the Métis Nation and Treaty territory. Miigwech, Moise, thank you.
As part of our ongoing commitment to reconciliation at Evergreen, students continue to learn about treaties, relationships, and rights over the past few weeks. As a school, and with the guidance of our community elders and knowledge keepers, we commit to ongoing learning, which will help our students fulfill our mutual responsibilities for unity built on the values of respect and kindness. Senator Murray Sinclair said the following about reconciliation, and I would like to share it with you today. Reconciliation is not about recreating what was in the past or what was not in the past. It is about something new. Reconciliation at its heart is simple. I want to be your friend and want you to be my friend. And if we're true friends, we'll work it out. We want all children to live beside each other in a mutually respectful relationship. It is my honor to introduce the Brown Eagle drummers at this time and ask them to open our assembly with song. stand up, Owen? It is now my great honor to call upon the Grand Chief of Treaty 3, Wichita Francis Kavanaugh. He was recently re-elected as Grand Chief of the Anishinaabe Nation in Treaty 3 by a traditional selection process on October 1st, 2019. I think it is really important to note that this is the first time a Grand Chief was selected for a third term to serve the citizens of Grand Council Treaty 3. Please help me in giving a warm welcome to Grand Chief Kavanaugh.
Good morning, everyone. We went through the warm introduction. My name is Francis Kavanaugh, Wichita. I'm the Grand Chief of Grand Council Number 3. I'm from the community of North Keewatin, formerly Whitefish Bay. And I belong to the Sturgeon clan. I also belong to the Keewatin Lodge, Sundance Lodge, and our traditional longhouse. That's how I usually introduce myself and before the people that I represent. I know I represent a lot of you, because of the treaty, us in the Treaty 3 area, Northwestern Ontario, we're all treaty people. There was just not one party that signed that agreement. In fact, Treaty 3, about 16 years before the treaty was signed, there was already skirmishes, uprising that were taking place around present day Winnipeg. And the army of the day wanted to cross the territory of the Treaty 3 Ojibwe. But for some reason, they were very fearful. They heard we were very fierce warriors within the territory. So that's actually when the discussions began with respect to signing a treaty with the Ojibwe, the Lake of the Woods area, Rainy Lake. That's when those discussions came about. It was because they wanted passage through our territory so they could go up to the Manitoba area to see if they could quell the uprisings that were happening at the time. But eventually in 1871, that's when they finally agreed that they would sit down. Commissioners from the Dominion of Canada came by, along with our people who gathered at where the treaty was signed, down in northwest angle, close to the Minnesota border. Our people traveled from all over, north from Lac Seul, from close to Thunder Bay, Lac to Malac, from all over. We gathered there. But because of the way our ancestors, our forefathers, wanted to conduct the treaty-making process, as you all know, some of our governing tools, our institutions of governance, is our pipes. On the Chimney Wedge to the Brown Eagle Singers, their drum. Those are some of our instruments of governance, our tools of governance, is that drum. And the gifts that these young men carry, the ability to render songs, it's truly a gift. I, as an individual, don't know how to sing. I didn't get that gift. That's why I really very, very respectful of people that can do that. In fact, singing is the origin of our communication amongst us. You know, at the time of creation, that's how our people communicated, not only amongst us as people, but with all of creation. All of creation to us is animate. There's nothing out there that's inanimate. And that's why we always say, in order for us to get back to who we are, we need to reconnect to the land. Not only our languages, but to the land, the lakes, the river systems that we have along the territory. Going back to the treaty, also the treaty involved two parties, but according to us, the Anishinaabe people, of Treaty 3, it was a trilateral process. Because of what I alluded to, the way our ancestors conducted their meetings, they relied on our traditional items. I don't like to call them items either. To us, they're animate. They're just like another person. That's the kind of relationship we have with our gifts from the Creator. So what I'm saying is the agreement, Treaty 3, is a trilateral agreement. The third partner being Creator. That's how powerful, how sacred the Treaty 3 is to us as Creator sanction. That's why it required 3 different sittings before in 1873 our people, leaders of the day, finally agreed, yes, we had an agreement. And we still carry that way of conducting our affairs, our business in Treaty 3. A lot of times, especially now, in the last over 20 years now, we've been developing our own laws based on who we are. We have a resource law, it's called. We did that when Bell Canada came knocking on our doors. They wanted to string fiber optic line through our territory. At the time, Treaty 3 did not have a vehicle or a mechanism to provide permission or a permit to give to proponents that wanted to cross our territory. But after several meetings, the Executive Council of the day agreed they would give them an Executive Council decision permitting them to string their fiber optic line through our territory, but under certain terms. Bell Canada had to agree that we set up a table, and they put up the fiscal package as well as to draft a law, our own resource law, which would eventually displace in due course MNRF in their issuance of permits, licensing within our territory, That's the premise behind the Manitoki-Nakonigiwin. We have an example of that in Kenora. We have a forestry outfit in Kenora called the Sun. It's a group of 7 First Nation communities who got together. They use Manitoki-Nakonigiwin. Yes, they did displace MNRF in the Kenora forests. It's the Sun, our people, that carry out the forest management planning in that forest. They're the ones that repair the roads, culverts, bridges. See, that's how we use Manitoki-Nakonigiwin. And then when we talk about here a lot, reconciliation, I beg to differ with respect to reconciliation. When our ancestors signed the treaty, it was about sharing. It was about sharing the benefits of the natural resources in the territory. That has not always happened. It's only recently it has started to happen. A couple years ago, Grand Council Treaty number 3 signed a revenue sharing agreement with Ontario, where any activity in mining or forestry within Treaty 3 territory will get, I think in mining, 45% revenues and 40 from forestry. To me, that's reconciliation. Reconciliation means to me we once had a relationship. That was good. That was fine. We were all happy. What I'm saying is it's only started now. We never had a real relationship. All we ever had was crumbs from other activities within our territories. And that's what the people need to know, especially education. That's what needs to be incorporated. And I've been talking about this for some 30 years. Sometimes we ask elders to come in and speak in schools. I'm one of them. I speak at schools as an elder. But sometimes it's for tokenism. I've been imploring governments for over 30 years to incorporate some of our teachings in the curriculum, to provide the true history of where Canada came from. And also, most importantly, that when we bring elders, we incorporate their teachings, those have to become part of the curriculum and part of the evaluation process. That's the only way our young people are going to reconnect to who we are. And that's the only way we are going to educate the rest of Canada about us, about the treaties, about our connection to the lands, the water, the rivers. Yes, Treaty 3 covers quite a big area, 55,000 square miles. It starts just east of Thunder Bay, and it goes into eastern Manitoba, to the Minnesota border, to about 60th parallel, I believe. That's a huge chunk of territory. So when I say we're all treaty people, we are all treaty people. And I also want to commend the previous government for recognizing, starting this recognition of Treaty Week. It started in 2016. And I also want to commend the present government for doing the same thing. You know, for me, that's real leadership. When a new party comes in or a new leader comes in, you take that ball among the yardsticks. And that's how it should be done. So I commend the BC government for continuing that recognition. That's the only way we're going to teach the rest of Ontario that treaties are important. I also want to add too that whenever you hear or read in the media an announcement, First Nation community close by might be getting millions of dollars for a specific project. You know, we should all applaud. What's good for us, it's also good for the town of Kenora, for Francis, Dryden, Red Lake. You know? So that's what I'm saying, is that we need to be partners. That's the only way we're going to ever make things right. We need to walk together, we need to work together. And I also have an individual here who will speak to treaties in a good way. I was supposed to be in Red Lake today, this week, in Silicon. But I asked an individual if he would go on my behalf, because I know he has great knowledge about our treaties, and he's here, he's going to be speaking later. Save me wedge for him being here. That's what I wanted to say, you know. We're all treaty people. You know, let's walk together, let's work together. I know I have a lot of cordial working relationship with many. Rory here, I've known for 50 years, I believe. I went to school with Sharon many years ago, I guess. And I know Mike Aiken from way back. We also have a brother from Land Territory here. He wedge for being here. So with that, Jimmy Wedge for listening. Now, I was also part of the reason why I'm here is I have a granddaughter that goes to school here. She's 7 years old, and somebody I want my papa to come. So, Jimmy Wedge.
And now I'm happy to be able to welcome for the first time to Evergreen, the Deputy Grand Chief for Anishinaabe Nation, Derek Fox. Deputy Grand Chief Fox was first elected as one of 3 Deputy Grand Chiefs with Anishinaabe Nation in August of 2015 and re-elected in 2018. He is a well-regarded speaker, opinion leader, and sits on a number of board committees, as well as a Beaver Brave parent and a partner with KPDSB. His current portfolio responsibilities include education, justice, language, and youth. Please help me welcome Deputy Grand Chief Fox.
Good morning, everyone. I want to acknowledge, first of all, the land which we are on, or Wajashkanagam, and of course the land of Treaty Creek. I'd also like to acknowledge the drum Fair. We got Chief Gerald Lewis from Shoal Lake, on the jump. Brown Eagle. I sang with them once, last February. They haven't invited me back since. I think I shared Grant Chief Kavanaugh's skill set as far as singing. I'm not a singer. But we're here today to talk about treaties. And my background, I'll talk a little bit about my background. I'm now 38 years old. I have 2 kids, one at Beaver Brae, one who goes to school in Shoal Lake, there in Ontario. But I also have 2 little kids that I consider mine, and not biologically mine, Jade and Ben from Shoal Lake, 7 years old. I practiced law prior to being elected. I went to school at the University of Manitoba, and I practiced law for about, how long? Maybe 2 years. What made me go to law school was my father. My father said, son, at a very young age, I was very young, I was a teenager, he put the Indian Act in front of me. He wanted me to learn about the Indian Act and treaties, so I studied them. I still study them. I went to law school, I continued to study case law, legislative, common law, all of that. And I was fascinated by all of it. I gained all this knowledge about treaties and contracts, and Grant Chief Kavanaugh alluded to it. It's the treaty, it's a live document. It's a live agreement. It's an agreement that's always changing and growing as our people grow, as our nation grows. And when I say nation, I don't just mean Treaty 3. I don't just mean Anishinaabe Nation, which is where I'm from, Treaty 9 and 5. I represent 49 First Nations in Northern Ontario. I'm elected by the 49 chiefs of those communities. We have 7 tribal councils, 3 dialects of, I should say 3 tribes, Crees, Ojibwe, and Ojibwas. James Bay Coast, the Muskegwa Crees, to north of Red Lake, you might have heard of some of them, Kanjigam. I know Minister Rickford worked there for a while. He's very well versed in that community. The Kanjigam, when we talk about treaties and reconciliation, the most powerful thing about them is their kids. I see all the kids here. Their kids speak Ojibwe as their first language. So language is affiliated with that reconciliation. Language means everything to our people. Language is crucial to the identity of our children. It's crucial to our future, it's crucial to our nation. And I say that because there's an issue with the fact that like many of our young people cannot speak it. They cannot even understand it. And I think we're at a time in which we can fix that as partners, as treaty partners, as treaty people. I want to acknowledge the BC government who is here, the members, Jill Dunlop, Minister Rickford, Terry Rickford. They've done a good job of working with Anishinaabe Nation, Grand Council of Treaty 3. And I believe we're going to do a better job of continuing that work when it comes to a treaty relationship and reconciliation. You know, the youth file that I have, the education, and the justice, they're all related. You take one kid, for example, who's been raised in a home in which the residential school legacy lives, or alcohol and drug abuse. They get older. They don't seek an education. They fall into the justice system. And we see many of them. We see many of our young people end up on the streets and the homeless. Some of them right here in Kenora. We have a lot of work to do. And I'll say to the children and our teachers here, don't judge our homeless people. help them, be compassionate to what may have been done to them or what kind of life they have lived. Don't judge those who don't look like you or act like you or talk like you. Be friends with them. Because that's what that treaty relationship is all about. And I forgot to mention, I'm also from Shoal Lake First Nation. So that makes me from Treaty 3 also. And Grand Chief Kavanaugh reminded me of that. So I consider this home. I consider Kenora home. And I love it here. I absolutely love coming here. I drive here every 2 weeks from Thunder Bay to visit my 4 children. And I love this town. I love Lake of the Woods. I love the surrounding communities. I love the hockey teams. And when you talk about treaty and growth and their relationship, you can see that in our hockey teams. You see all kinds of kids, native kids, non-native kids, you name it. And they're playing together and they're working towards a goal, which is winning their games, winning championships. And I love to see that. I see it in Thunder Bay. So maybe sports is the way that we build that treaty relationship. There's many ways. But I believe it all starts in the home. It all starts with your parents and your families, your parents, your grandparents, that conversation around the dinner table, educating yourselves about the history of this land and what has been done in our country. So I'm going to keep it short. I know that being a father of children, I try not to say too much because they stop listening to me after a while. I want to once again acknowledge everyone that made this happen. I want to acknowledge the leadership of this school. Great schools only come from great leadership. And I want to, of course, acknowledge Grand Chief Kavanaugh for his great words. And I look forward to the future. I look forward to today and the future. And I do believe change is happening. Change is always slow. Change is always gradual. Change is difficult. But I do believe it's headed in a positive way. It's headed somewhere that we all want to be. So thank you on behalf of Mission Abiyaski Nation and Grand Chief Fiddler and our non-executive. I want to thank you all for having me here to speak, and have a good day. Good wish.
The Keewatin-Patricia District School Board has an Indigenous Education Advisory Committee that is made up of trustees, community partners, elders, and senior administration. Mr. Dave Cornish is a Kenora trustee that sits on this committee and is here to bring greetings on behalf of the board. Please help me to welcome Mr. Cornish.
Thank you, Principal Bailey, for extending the invitation to say a few words today. On behalf of the Keewatin-Patricia District School Board, I wish to welcome and thank the drummers, Elders Daryl Redsky and Don Jones, Grand Chief Kavanaugh, Deputy Grand Chief Fox, MPPs Mr. Rickford and Ms. Dunlop, to today's treaty recognition closing ceremony. As trustee, I'm very pleased for the collective efforts put forth by many to see classrooms across the board actively involved through engaged learning, discovering more about our treaty relationships. The school board agrees with the need to recognize that we're all treaty people. Through our strategic plan, we have committed to ensure all schools and staff are actively engaged in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action. As a parent and educator, I have lived in this area for over 30 years. I have seen changes, experienced changes for the better. But we are not where we need to be. But through the collective efforts necessary to make weeks like this happen, to be successful, we must continue to work together. I would like to share a personal experience. When we moved here over 30 years ago as a young family, we knew that this area had a nasty reputation because of the tensions between native and non-native populations. But we also learned there were many community efforts being made to foster a better understanding and a better relationship between these two groups. There was the Red-White Committee, the Multicultural Society, the Friendship Center, and Kansa, to name a few. We decided to stay for many reasons, knowing that through our careers as teachers and through participating with community groups, we could be a part of bringing about change. But we were not immune to the nastiness. We will never forget when our 6-year-old daughter at the time came home and asked at dinner, "What's an apple?" The kids at school called me an apple, and they laughed at me. Not easy to hear, not easy to respond to. Our son, too, had to endure similar taunting when he was younger. We have 2 of our 3 grandchildren here who attend school at Evergreen. As grandparents, I'm pleased to say we have not seen or heard any of this early nastiness, and trust that this is in part due to the efforts of many within the extended school community, striving to break down prejudicial barriers. For this, I thank Principal Bailey and her staff. I thank the Board of Trustees for investing the time in a strategic plan, bringing reconciliation as one of our main goals, to be monitored and reported on at board meetings, so successes can be shared and remaining hurdles addressed. And more importantly, our First Nations leadership from Treaties 3 and Treaty 9 for being partners in this journey of reconciliation. We are here today for the closing ceremony of Treaty Recognition Week, but I prefer to recognize today for all of our students, staff, and communities as an opportunity to reflect on the past week, Treaties Recognition Week, setting the stage for all of us to build upon for our collective next steps in the reconciliation process. In closing, I would like to offer the following. Accessibility is being able to get into the building. Diversity is getting invited to the table. Inclusion is having a voice at the table. Belonging is having your voice heard at the table. Thank you. Be with you.
I'm happy to introduce our next special guest and speaker, the Honourable Greg Rickford. Minister Rickford was elected to the Ontario Legislature as the MPP for Kenora Rainy River in 2018 and currently serves as the Minister of Energy, Northern Development and Mines, as well as the Minister of Indigenous Affairs, Ontario. Before coming to Queen's Park, Minister Rickford represented the people of Kenora Rainy River in Ottawa as a Member of Parliament. At both the federal and provincial levels, Minister Rickford has served the people of Ontario and Canada by building relationships with Indigenous communities and leaders, listening and giving voice to their concerns. Today, Minister Rickford is keen on delivering on the commitment to make life more affordable and businesses more prosperous through the ministries he oversees. Please help me welcome Minister Rickford.
Greg Rickford, Indigenous. I want to thank Gijda Kavanaugh. This is our second consecutive treaty recognition closure ceremony together. And to Deputy Chief Derek Fox, extraordinary opportunity and service that you have to the Anishinaabe Nation, Treaties 9 and 5. You know, listening to the leadership and remarks that just preceded me, I'm struck by a couple of reflections that are most important to me. Deputy Chief Derek, like you, I began to understand a lot more about the treaties when I went to law school. But I want to speak to the children because I really missed out on something that you're getting a chance to do. And that was to actually understand what a treaty was before you get to law school. Sadly, when I was growing up, and grew up right beside Mohawk First Nations, Six Nations. We knew very little about it. It wasn't in our school curriculum. The languages had been virtually lost in many of the communities. It wasn't until I moved to the north, actually, and started working at Mishkigolgamung and then Pikanchkum, that I started to understand and appreciate the importance of Indigenous languages that had preceded this continent, Turtle Island. That's too bad, frankly. So to the students and to the teachers, the extraordinary opportunity you have to give meaning and give effect to those treaties, to this relationship at such a young age is a powerful and, in my view, important, probably the most important thing that you can do. I know for my part, sitting in the cabinet of the current government, and then one prior particularly now, I've made it my business to ensure that not only you young people, but high school students alike, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, will have an opportunity for the first time to take courses in your high schools to learn more about the rich, sometimes unfortunate, but nonetheless important history and contributions of the Indigenous peoples to this continent. And that moving forward, Treaty Recognition Week and reconciliation will not be about turning the page on some dark and unfortunate moments in our history, but provide an understanding of how we can move forward together to build and work together towards a better place for us all to live and to learn. So that's what Treaty Recognition Week means to me. I have truly been blessed now to be able to live on Treaty 9 and Treaty 5, Anishinaabe Nation territory extensively. Some of my closest friends are Indigenous people, and to live here on the traditional lands of Wajishkanugam and Treaty 3 territory. I want to thank you folks for this extraordinary opportunity, the opportunity you kids have today to get a better and a different start than some of us older folks. Not that I'm that old, but anyways. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I would like to next introduce the Honourable Jill Dunlop, who is the Associate Minister of Children and Women's Issues. She believes that we need to create partnerships between education, employers, and their communities to build successes that engage our youth, newcomers, and new business. Jill is an appointed member of both the Standing Committee on Justice Policy as well as Standing Committee on Estimates. Please help me welcome Honourable Jill Dunlop.
Thank you very much for having me today. Miigwech to the drum, to the singers, miigwech to the Branch Chief Kavanaugh, and miigwech to Deputy Chief Fox. Thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. As the Minister responsible for women and children, I must give a shout out to all the kids for being so great in here today. You're listening, you're being respectful, and you're learning lots about treaties. I'm very happy to be here with you today and to be a part of Treaties Recognition Week at Evergreen. What you're learning this week is so important. The first treaties were signed hundreds of years ago, but they're still so important today. You live in Treaty 3, and I live where the Williams Treaties and John Collins Purchase Treaties overlap. So I had to fly to get here yesterday. No matter where we live in Ontario, treaties affect us all. It's important that we learn about treaties and understand how they've shaped our lives, our province, and our country. I hope you take what you have learned at school and share it with your friends and your family and your community. Speak out loud, become ambassador of the treaties, and you will make a difference and help to build a better world. Miigwech to your principal, Shannon, and miigwech to the staff and your teachers and the community who have joined us here today. I hope that you all continue to learn throughout the school year. And thank you for having me, and Evergreen students, have a wonderful week. Miigwech to all. Thank you.
introduce our Keewatin-Patricia District School Board Curriculum Leader, Mrs. Michelle Parrish, to introduce our speaker today, and also to thank her for everything she's done to help create and prepare for today's assembly. Please help me welcome Mrs. Parrish.
Thank you. Acknowledge the drum, and as well acknowledge and welcome the guests who have come together today with Evergreen staff and students to bring to a close the 2019 Treaties Recognition Week. This week, across KPDSB, we've had the privilege of hosting 2 living library elders, Mr. Don Jones, who is with us, and Mr. Robert Green, who is speaking at the last of the 2 schools in the Red Lake area. The Living Library program is a project of the Ontario Ministry of Indigenous Affairs. This program seeks to provide schools and libraries across Ontario with historically accurate, relevant, and meaningful teaching about the treaties. It is through this program and through the elders it brings into our schools that we can deepen our understanding of treaty history, relationships, and responsibilities. Here at the closing ceremonies, after a week full of learning across our entire board, we welcome Living Library Elder Mr. Don Jones. Mr. Jones was born and raised in the Nikiku-Amakning territory and is a proud member of the Lynx clan near Fort Francis. His wisdom has brought him to several leadership roles, including being chief at the age of 25 and tribal chief for 3 terms for Grand Council Treaty No. 3. He has served as a research director and worked for the advisory services in Fort Francis. He leads teachings on self-governance, bringing knowledge of history and contemporary issues to his learners. Mr. Jones is fluent in Anishinaabewan, and it is through his cultural knowledge that we are able to learn from him today. We are very honored to welcome him here to the closing ceremonies, and I ask you to join me in bringing him to teach us.
Bonjour. Bonjour. Bonjour, the name of the talk. How? You got to be nice and you go. Bonjour, the hotel. You go to the town in Donji. Keewatin, Koema, Vashaganashim. Mama, Vashaganashim, Koema, Anishinaabewan Yam, Don. We're just going to be great job, great day again. We get from coming in up. We get in you, well, Kagagi Gituat. We go to be going on away, Titajan demand. When it do it happening here, when it do, as an Agan. The Asian Catholic, Asian Catholic one, Anishinaabe, away at the Shindaman. As I win the one woman, Wichita, then $15 away. $10 left, yeah. In this case, to get out, how much? My chief is one of my, the goes in the carny. The week to bed, the Kagis, Tagos, the Pagichigay. The Kagis are marking out so carny. Away with the gentleman and the 2 months in Agan. The gay, ski ask, the paja, the park in a margate, the park with the margesa. Away the K and the K6 to one, and this not big, away with the 2 months in Agan. It is where we go to Tanuzian, and Jina, away. We go to end them this up at Chief. Ie nogam kai kabagi toat. Oitis nogam, ogitita iwe, enitit nogam. Is be me dot, we can get dot. Away with the Thomas Naigan. Garish yegi kito aja, at so kanak.
kia au i te si e shiget a pigo oe chi jate chi wiki me tut chigagi zamat bigi na ku chiget oe chigagi zamat ge at sukana kia bi tinga at sukana oe ge ajate bi ge at oe na tut znaigan. So good morning or good afternoon, I think, getting close to lunchtime. My English name is Don Jones. My hand is Lex, and I'm from the Nicky Usman County First Nation. I'd like to acknowledge the drum, Brown Eagle, the minister, my visitors, I came, Kitita. What I mentioned in my language, I was asked to present our knowledge, our understanding from the Anishinaabe perspective of the treaties. We call our treaty Wanetuma. So prior, as our Grand Chief has mentioned, it's a sacred document, it's a living document. And so before I left my community, we had a feast, we had a ceremony, pipe ceremony in our traditional roundhouse, because I was entering into a discussion, and I wanted to acknowledge the spirits that were involved at the signing of the treaty. I wanted to acknowledge that I will be talking to young people. I'll be talking to different groups of people for us to understand each other better about our treaty and how important it is to Anishinaabe people. So generally, when I am asked to present, I've been to about 6, 7 schools throughout the week here. And I always ask the question, what is a treaty? How do they understand treaties? A lot of the groups have said it's a contract, it's an agreement, it's about peace, it's about sharing, it's all of those. But I wanted to highlight one comment a little girl made at one time. It's like a pinky swear. It's like a pinky swear. You do not break a pinky swear. So this little girl put it simply, that the treaty is very sacred, it's very long-lasting. When it opens in Aegon, we need to acknowledge and feast and continually honor our relationship. The relationship is with the Crown. The relationship is with people on this territory. The relationship defines how we get along together. So a lot of the comments that were made prior to coming up here, I acknowledge them, and it's about the future as well, because the treaty will last as long as the sun shines, the river flows, that is to say forever. So the young people here understand what the treaty is all about. So if you take it from a pinky swear, you go into law, you know what a contract would be, what an agreement will be, and eventually, when you get to my age, you understand and appreciate the significance of a treaty. One other comment I wanted to make, I was over at Valley View School, and I was talking to the grade 5 and 6, and I mentioned to them that I went to residential school, which was just down the street, and I went to grade 5 and 6 at Valley View. And I told the students, this is the first time in 50 years that I stepped into Valley View School. A lot of jaws dropped, eyes opened. I think they were more surprised that I was that age, over 60. But it's important to understand from our perspective, and that's the message I was conveying to the young people, to the students, that the relationship still exists. The treaty still is here. Our Grand Chief acknowledged that It's an agreement, it's a living document, and we feast and honor the spirits. I also mentioned in my presentations that there were two pipes. There were two pipes that were in attendance at the treaty signing ceremony. Today, after 146 years, those pipes are still in existence. Two individuals from Buffalo Point are keepers of that pipe. One of the questions I always get asked is about my feather from the young people. And when we talk about traditional items, we talk about items that were at the treaty signing. Those two pipes are important. Also, the feathers were there. So I equate my presentation, although this is a personal feather, that the feathers were sacred and were involved at the signing of the ceremony. The other little point I wanted to make is that Grand Chief Kavanaugh met with the Prime Minister Trudeau July 30th, 2017 at Harbourfront. He had a vision that I have a picture of him shaking hands with the Prime Minister. It's a reenactment of the treaty signing where there's a hatchet and a piece of board with cloth on it to represent the ground. And so that's important that we continue acknowledging and asserting and talking about treaty relationship. Words that are being spoken now, you may not have heard 20, 30 years ago. Words like nation to nation. Words like we're all treaty people. So it's good to hear those words. It's good to continue the discussion about treaties, to have an understanding of treaties. And I also applaud the government for continuing on the living libraries. I've been involved since its inception in 2016. And I also wanted to acknowledge that the young people to listen. I was amazed at some places that they did sit and listen for an hour of me speaking. I don't even get that at home. So, my final message is that we continue talking, we understand each other, and don't break the pinky swear. You got it.
That many people have mentioned tonight that we haven't always been able, or this morning, that we haven't always been able to have this learning, and very lucky to have so many people share their knowledge with us. As I mentioned earlier, our school board, throughout the last week, the students and staff have been learning about treaties. So all the way from Pickle Lake, 500 kilometers away, to the Red Lake area, to Ignace and Sioux Lookout, Dryden, and as well, of course, in Kenora this week. They've been learning about the history of this land and the relationships of this area. This learning has included time with elders, traditional cultural activities, time on the land, learning through maps with technology, working with other students, participating in the Kairos blanket exercise, and many more activities. We've captured some of this in photos, and with this video that we're about to show and the accompanying music by Red Lake artist Cheyenne Havorka, we'd like to join you in taking a look at our learning. We'd like you to join us in taking a look at our learning.
They all began from the same sand, planted so gently by that Creator's hand, leaning on each other like they need to do, grounded by their interwoven tangled roots. Birch, cedar, spruce. And they will bow to the winds of change, yet they still remain together. And all their branches all may fade, the spirit stays forever. Isn't that like me and you? Birch, cedar, spruce. We all may be different, but we're all the same. Every seed sown from a common grain, leaning on each other as we need to do, grounded by each other's interwoven roots, like the birch, cedar, spruce. And we will bow to the winds of change, yet we still remain together. And though our branches all may fade, our spirit stays forever. Isn't that really the truth? Birch, cedar, spruce. Isn't that really the truth? Birch, cedar, and spruce.
For their work and as well the support in organizing this event, our KP Communications Director, Keewatin-Patricia. Thank you to all of you. The learning that you and everyone else has done this week is so important. As the video concluded, we were reminded that we can influence the future through this learning and the choices that we make today. As the 2019 Treaties Recognition Week and the KPDSB closing ceremonies draw to a close in a minute, we would like to sincerely thank Ms. Bailey and the Evergreen School for hosting this.
Before our drummers close the assembly with song, I would like to thank all of our guests for their time and wisdom today. I'd like to once more acknowledge the drum and the Brown Eagle drummers for sharing their gift with us today and for allowing one of our students to take part. I would also like to take this formal opportunity to thank the Evergreen families, staff, and students for allowing me to spend my days with them over the past 4 and some years. As I move into my new role as Superintendent of Education on Monday, I couldn't be more proud to have watched the growth and development of our children over the past few years. So to you all, especially my students, I want to say thank you, miigwech. Thank you for coming today. And I just want to point out that it is a great day. Minnog Izigat. Thank you. I would just like to extend an invitation to our guests and our families that have joined us today. We will be serving a lunch for guests. Thank you, students. You are rock stars for sitting so awesome today. I'm so proud of you. You guys can head back to your classes. I bet you're ready to eat and then go outside and run around. So good job, you guys.